Hello, everybody. FAI here, or I here, and welcome back to another Accurate Talk Sale. And in today's Accurate Talk Sale, I thought we'd talk about hipfire or not hipfire, or ADS in some cases. For some of you who are thinking, well, you should probably call it ADS or aim down sights. And I just figured we should talk about these things and kind of get an idea or kind of get an understanding of should you hipfire or should you not, and what should you do? What can you do? Obviously, here I am adjusting my sensitivity again because I have still yet to find a perfect sensitivity for Apex Legends, but still. The thing is, in the end of the day, the question is, should you hipfire or should you not? Should you ADS a lot? I mean, it's kind of like auto-programming that we have in our brain to ADS. And, aim down sights, I think, kind of came into conception because of the fact that it reduces bloom and it reduces the cone of the fire rate. But, I mean, in the end of the day, this isn't always true. In fact, in most cases, this is not true at all, as most guns don't have a real big cone rate at all. Like, when you look at a pistol, for instance, you could ADS it, but it really doesn't change the factor of if you're hip firing it or ADSing it. I mean, a lot of times, when you ADS it, most of the time you're just controlling the recoil and maybe getting a more precise shot or precise, idea and eye of what you're looking at. Now, of course, in real life, you probably would ADS more weapons than aiming because, let's face it, unlike games, real life doesn't have a crosshair for say, and, you can't really get a good sight of, what you're looking at. But in a video game, because you do have a crosshair, should you ADS or should you hipfire? And I think the answer is clearly you should probably hipfire. And, at the end of the day, hipfiring is the main answer. So that would be the end of the video, and we're going to call the video here. So, but I'm just joking. Let me explain what I mean by you should probably consider hipfiring more than ADSing. Now, it's programmed in our brain that we should ADS, and it's kind of a auto program, if you will, that ADSing is the way to go. ADSing is the best way to, get a better idea of your game plan, your play style, and all that jazz. But at the end of the day, let's face it, it's probably something that you don't want to deal with. It's probably something that you probably will want to not have to always worry about. In fact, 9 out of 10 times, if you can hipfire and, confidently cross yourself onto the crosshair of whatever target you're looking at, then there's really no reason to ADS. I mean, in Call of Duty, yeah, it's a little more like arcade-like, so at the end of the day, RNG is more going to be out there, and in something like Call of Duty, the rate of fire, the cone and stuff, obviously, you're going to have more people who are going to ADS than anything, but at the end of the day, you probably should consider not ADSing if you can at least help it, because at the end of the day, there's really no reason to ADS. The crosshair is just kind of there. There's no real reason to, ADS at all. There's nothing that would stop you from not ADSing. But I would suggest, in the most case, that you just consider hipfiring entirely. Because, again, by hipfiring entirely or just hipfiring in general, you give yourself a pretty decent chance to really successfully, successfully control the battle and have the most mobility while not drawing out the cone of your field of view or the cone of view that you have. And we talked about this in my last video about sensitivity and improvements for FPSs. And I'll explain it again on this video if you have not watched that video. But when you are ADSing, you reduce your cone of view or your field of view. So while your resolution or may not be different, and you'll still be looking at through the game at 1080p. When you do ADS, you basically are reducing your cone or field of view, which basically means that you will not be able to, see as much as you should be able to see. By ADSing, you reduce your cone of view or your cone by maybe 50 to 60%. This means that whatever you're looking at the left of you, whatever you're looking at the right of you, is pretty much what you're looking at. It's not going to be, seen. Now, obviously, when you're fighting at range, you'll probably want to consider, ADSing, because it'll give you a much more easier time to focus whatever your enemy is, whatever the, person is that you're going after. But when you're looking at it based on just should you, draw out your cone of view, your field of view, or should you just, hip fire in close range or even medium to close range, I would suggest that you just kind of focus on trying to hip fire it. And, focus on firing at somebody in a hip fire distance, not so much at a distance of ADS. Because when you ADS, of course, you're going to have a little bit of a harder cone of view. You're going to have a harder time to get a good field of vision, a good, idea of what you're looking at. You may not even be able to see what you're looking at. Now, I know that hip firing is going to be something that everyone's going to kind of go up in arms and kind of be like, no, you shouldn't hip fire. You should ADS all the time because you're going to lower that cone of vision. You're going to get rid of the bloom and, all these other arguments. But I would argue that, honestly, when it comes down to it, the bloom, the cone of view, it doesn't matter. A lot of times, hip firing will grant you not only more mobility, but if you're confident in your shot, and let's face it, 9 out of 10 of you, I'm sure, are probably very confident in your shot, especially when you first catch somebody by surprise, then, by hip firing, you should be able to, in general, technically, take that person down much, much quicker. Because, again, when you ever ADS, and as you ADS, you also have a slower time being able to focus your sight on the enemy, and it'll take you a little bit longer to also just fire at somebody. And this is something that you don't really want because, again, time is precious. And a lot of times, if you're trying to ADS just so that you can focus on whatever the target is, especially if you're just trying to go for headshots, then, you should probably be running a sniper or something. If your main job is to try to focus on headshots, focus on getting crit damage all the time, then, focus on getting a sniper and playing the long-range game. I know that it's kind of like, well, why should I play the long-range game if I can focus on hip firing or crit damaging people by ADSing at them? ADSing at them with an AR, an SMG, or just something that would be, considered better with fire rate and whatnot. But, at the end of the day, like I said before, that's not the point. The point is that you want to be able to basically, focus your fire. Be able to get your fire rate going. And, you want to be able to, hit your target. 9 out of 10 times, if you ADS, you're going to be a little bit slower. You're going to lower your cone of view, so you won't see an enemy coming up on you. You won't see somebody on the left of you. You won't see somebody on the right of you. And if someone's behind you, you won't be able to do a 180 turn really quickly because, I've said before on my sensitivity video, your sensitivity is not 1-to-1. So, obviously, when your sensitivity is not 1-to-1, it's not going to work out that way. It's not going to be, successful in any way, shape, or form like that. So, you gotta consider all the options. Consider, how can I, focus my view? How can I make things to where it works 1-to-1 for me? Or at least it works for me. And like I said, if you're confident in your shots, and I'm sure a lot of you are, then hip firing should be a good way to get yourself basically set up for in-game. basically set up for long-term fighting, because you're going to find that fights are easy and they're going to become better overall, so you'll not only have more mobility, but you'll probably be a little more confident in your shots. You'll be a little more basically set up for the long-term game. And that's why I suggest everyone hip fires. I suggest that you get yourself out of the programming of, I have to ADS whenever I'm firing a weapon. No, you don't have to ADS whenever you're firing a weapon. This is completely inaccurate in many ways. I mean, let's face it. Some of the best Fortnite players that I've watched, some of the best pros that I watched, all of them, if not most of them, are hip firing. Most of them, if not all of them, are hip firing a lot of times. You rarely see a you rarely do see a Fortnite player playing the ADS game, playing the long-term, like, I'm going to just ADS off people. I'm going to, use my ADS and stuff. And, again, like I said, this is something that you rarely will see from a Fortnite player. Heck, even from an Apex Legend Pro, you may see them not hipfire or ADS very often because, again, it's just inaccurate. It's not going to, ADSing means that you're not going to be able to see a lot unless you're playing like Sniper or something like that. Now, if you're playing Sniper, obviously, you don't want to try no-scope all the time because no-scopes are just not going to work unless you're like 10 meters or less from your enemy because of the way that the fire works. But, in general, when you look at the long-term game, when you look at the long-range game and the long run, hip firing, unless is going to always help you out compared to being like that long-range warrior, that long gun, if you will. And, unfortunately, that's the truth about how to be successful to some degree is you've got to realize that, hip firing is not always going to be able to get you success, or ADSing is not always going to bring you success. And unless you're playing long range like a sniper or something, then, there's no reason that you should consider, really ADSing at all. I mean, if you're, like I said, confident in your shots, then, your shots should show that you are able to play. You are able to focus. Now, I mean, like it is in this video, you're seeing me show my marksmanship and when to ADS and a good way of ADSing, because again, like when to ADS, focusing on your ADSing and stuff, those are all, assets and aspects of the game that will help you. But again, you have to be a sharpshooter if you're going to ADS all the time. And, it's like the best time to ADS would be when you're basically, when you're basically playing the long range game. Like you see me here. If you're looking at the scope, you see it here that I'm at like 146 meters away. That's a pretty long distance to get a good accurate shot on hipfire. But for long range gameplay, obviously that's a pretty decent range to ADS at. Because again, you're going to be pretty distant, you're going to be pretty long range, and you're going to be able to, catch somebody off guard with your marksmanship. Especially if you're confident in your shot, you'll be able to catch somebody off guard. So, at the end of the day, that helps you entirely. That helps you in general. So, you want to consider that when you're playing the game and just playing in general. You want to make sure that you have, the right situation for each thing. You don't want to be situating yourself into something where, for some reason you're just not going to have the right situation or the right gun for the situation. So, that's the way it goes. But at the end of the day, that's just it, And, that's something that you just gotta consider when you are playing the game. Because, again, like, there are certain situations where hipfire will be always going to win compared to, ADSing. And, you just got to get yourself out of the programming of saying, I got ADS all the time because I'm going to lower the bloom, I'm going to lower the cone rate of fire. No, it doesn't matter. Sometimes the cone rate of fire just doesn't decrease at all. And unless you're playing the long range game, the long term game, the long haul, where you're going to have to, focus your fire and stuff, there's almost no reason that you should, hipfire or ADS. And I wouldn't consider a reason of you being able to or needing to ADS at all unless you had that, that situation where it calls for it, So, again, yeah, that's the main thing is just, it all is built around how you play. Your play style, if you're getting aggressive, then hip firing is probably going to be your best bet all the time. Because, again, aggressive players are always going to get close up and personal. They're always going to be playing in somebody's face, in somebody's comfort zone. And because they're always going to be playing in somebody's comfort zone, there's almost no reason to ADS at all. But if you're like right now, as you can see me showcasing my sniper work, if you're going to play sniper or someone who's going to play a little more distant, a little more long range, then at the end of the day, let's face it, you're going to probably want to build yourself around ADSing and, utilizing your ADS or your aim down sights. But overall, it's all built around how you condition yourself situationally. If you're not situationally conditioning yourself to be, long range, then, and you want to be aggressive, you want to be maybe W key or whatever, then obviously, ADSing will be not your friend if you're going to be an aggressive W key or something. Like right there, you saw me take a long shot on somebody, and that's a pretty long shot, but that was a perfect time to ADS and, show off my sniper work. That's basically a pretty good time for me to show off my sniper work. And like I said, that's a good time and good reason why you should, consider hip firing or, ADSing is like, it's all built around range and how you play. Like, I'm usually aggressive, and because I'm usually aggressive, I usually don't show off my sniper work very often because, let's face it, at the end of the day, there's really no reason for me to show off my sniper work other than just to kind of get rid of the W keyers or get rid of the people who are like, at the longer range or longer distance. But anyway, with that having been said, I mean, hopefully this has helped you on my argument of why you should probably consider hip firing and why you should most likely hip fire if you get a chance at it. Because, again, that's kind of the best way to win in any game, especially on BRs. You'll probably want to consider yourself to hip fire more, unless you really want to prove that you're a sniper by heart, a sniper by nature. Then obviously, show off your sniper work, show off your work as a sniper, and prove you're a sniper by nature, and show off your ADS work. But other than that, the main idea is hip fire whenever you get a chance because that'll help you. But anyway, with that being said, hopefully this video has helped you. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you like this video, you know what to do. Hit the like button, get subscribed, hit the bell notification because I know you want to know when my next video drops next. Thank you everybody for watching this video, and thank you for joining me on this video. And I hope this video has helped you. And I am live on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/FA_EYE or I. I'm live on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday for sure. Wednesdays and Saturdays are usually a little bit of a longer stream for me, about 4 to 5 hours, sometimes a little bit longer. Thursdays are usually a 2 to 3 hour stream for me most of the time. And I am live also on Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm live for 2 to 3 hours. But yeah, with that being said, thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for hanging out. And until the next one, everybody, this is FAI or I signing out and saying farewell, everyone.